I just.
Not muted. There we go. Thanks for joining another episode of the Caribbean Edge. Tonight we have G Wright with us. Thank you for joining us, G.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
And my name is Dawn Wilson. So we're going to dig in pretty quickly because we have about an hour to get through the conversation. So just want to say how this conversation even started. And it was based on your article in the Gleaner, which I will post on the Caribbean Edge as well, which sparked my interest to be a conversation that needed to happen. So I reached out to you and said, would you be willing to come on the Caribbean Edge and just have a conversation about it? And we talked a little bit about, you know, why you would want to have the conversation. So can you share with us the importance of having this conversation at this time?
Well, you know, I think particularly for the Caribbean community that we're still in a place where many people in the LGBTQ community can't share who they are openly. And what triggered the story really, and to write it at this time, was it was Pride Month was June, and we're celebrating LGBTQ people across the world, but LGBTQ people in Jamaica don't have equality, can't get married, and other issues that need to be resolved to make sure that people feel safe and feel equal. So, you know, we don't get to really talk about this that much. I feel like, you know, because we are in America, we're more likely to talk about it, but where we are in the world, our Caribbean community needs to really open the door to discussing it and to being open to having a greater understanding of our community and welcoming our community.
Okay. So we're gonna dig into you and your journey. And, you know, I'm sure people will relate one way or the other. And we're both Jamaicans.
Yes.
Kingstonians,
right? Right. Kingstonians too.
And so, you know, we're talking, even though there is homophobia everywhere around the world, right? But in the Caribbean, Jamaica has been rated, I believe, by the Guinness Book of World Records as the #1 most homophobic place on earth. So it's important to understand this is not just about Jamaica itself, but based on our personal experiences and journey, we can certainly talk about that. Right. So tell me, I'm gonna go all the way back, G.
No, that's fine. Rewind, that's fine.
So tell us how you were as a little girl.
As a little girl, I wanted to be a little boy. And I felt like I was a little boy. So I was what they call a tomboy. And so I was that kid who was climbing the ackee tree outside. I was playing football, which Americans call soccer. That was only for boy children when I was growing up. So I was playing outside. I grew up in a beautiful neighborhood, Hope Pastures. And we had a nice backyard. All of our friends had nice backyards. And we played football barefoot at the time. It's funny. And so I was pretty much like girl. I liked baby dolls, which was interesting. My mom is an amazing mom. So I was like this girl who had like this little doll, and then I'd have my football, you know? So not Barbie dolls, but baby dolls. I was looking forward to like being a mom in the future. So I was like, I'm gonna be a mommy, but I also felt like very much connected to what was supposed to be for boys. So yeah, I was a tomboy.
And so how did you dress?
I hated dresses and was devastated that in Jamaica, as you know well, the schools are predominantly, you have to wear a uniform and girls shouldn't have to wear dresses of sorts. So I went to Mona Prep where we wore a white shirt and then a tunic that was like a dress, right? So I wore shorts all the time underneath. And as soon as I got home, I ripped off the dress, and I really only had to, my family wasn't a church-going family, so I really didn't have to wear a dress unless it was like maybe a wedding, a funeral, and then school. But you would not, I mean, it was a distressful thing for me to put on a dress as a child.
Okay, so a lot of girls can relate to being a tomboy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't mean they'll end up
No.
being a
Because,
lesbian,
right, because that's just gender. Gender separate from sexual orientation. So gender-wise, I felt masculine since I was a little girl. And my mom had said when I was about 4 that I said I never want to wear dresses, and she said it like struck her. I was like, I don't want to ever wear a dress again. So that was like unusual for her. But yeah, a lot of girls are tomboys, and then like you said, gender doesn't mean that you're not going to be, gay for sure. Mm-hmm.
So so then you fell in love, taking you years later.
Okay, I was like, yeah, I had a lot of boyfriends. I had boyfriends, and I had boyfriends in elementary school. I have so one of my good friends still. He's like, we were boyfriend and girlfriend for 2 weeks in grade 5. I'm like, yeah, we were. So I liked boys. I had boyfriends, and then you're fast forwarding to high school. Yes, in high school, I fell in love with David Muir, who is my future husband and father of all of my children.
Okay, so how many kids do you have, children?
We have 2 sons together, and we have a son. He has a son from before, so there's 3 sons.
Okay, so you fell in love with David,
yes.
who I know.
Yes.
He's been on the show.
Yes.
And got married.
Yeah, don't you love him too?
I love him too.
Of course. Everybody loves David.
And my friendship is definitely growing with David. I get all kind of comments from him on the show as well.
Great,
so,
yes.
So you fell in love, got married. How long were you in love and met and married? How many years was that? And
well, we were so young. So I met him when I was a teenager, and we were like boyfriend, girlfriend for maybe like 9, 8, 10 years before we got married. So we got married in our I was in my younger 20s. And so we were married 17 years before it ended, and we had been together for about 10 years before that. So like the greater part of my life, really.
Okay. So throughout the marriage, it was a normal husband, wife. Some days you get along, some days you want to kill each other.
Thankfully, we didn't really have to kill each other apart. I mean, we were just like best friends and enjoying parenting our sons. And we were very like, we're going to Jamaica every summer. We went to plays. So we're really like taking the kids to parks. So it was really like, we're very like involved family. We coached soccer. I was a room mom. So we're really involved in like our sons' lives and our family life. And so of course we had arguments, but it was much more like really close friends. Lovers, of course, and raising our children,
So then what happened? Take us down the path.
So I realized early in the marriage that I was attracted to women. And it was really difficult for me because, and I talk about this in the way I write the article, I do start off with saying that, I'm like many people who may be reading this article who are in Jamaica, because I was someone who didn't believe I thought it was wrong to be gay, and I was extremely homophobic. So the last thing I would want to be is gay. So that was very disturbing for me, to feel like just to be gay was a disturbing, but to be like, and I'm already married, and we had our first son together. So when I knew for sure, like I had senses of things, it's hard when you don't see yourself. I didn't really see like lesbian couples and everything, so, or gay men, I didn't really say couples. So I didn't envision myself being gay in that at all. So yeah, I'm in my early 20s, have a little baby boy, and it's like, I realize I'm definitely, I want to be with women. So I come out to David at that point. We're still living up in New York City and had this, like I said, little boy, and we're still newlyweds. So that was actually very frightening for us, because I thought then that meant that my marriage is over, I just had a baby, what are we gonna do?
So was David the first person you told?
Yes, I had to first, come out to myself, which was really hard to accept. Like when you realize like this is who you are, was really very challenging. And then I had to tell, he was the first person I told, yes.
So I remember reading that, like you mentioned, coming from the Caribbean culture where, even our music, which you mentioned, you liked those songs. We all like those songs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely celebrate. I grew up in the beginning of kind of like dancehall really getting very popular, and it was really at the heart. It was like gun tunes, girl tunes, and songs that I don't want to say the word, but like songs about people who are believed to be gay. So a very negative word that was used. So I grew up in it, and at some point I played music. I was a college radio disc jockey, so all through college I played music. So I played songs like Boom Bye Bye. I had actually a request. It's so interesting. I was up in Massachusetts at 5 colleges in the area, and we're playing at one of the schools, and a young woman there was like, "We're going to ask you not to play Boom Bye Bye." I was like, "What? Oh no, why is this person trying to censor me?" So yeah, I came from that, wanted to say, this is our culture, this is how we feel, we're against that, so I bought into that, yes.
So when you told David, your husband, the father of your newborn, your baby,
yeah,
what was his initial reaction?
Shock and concern. So I would say, yeah, there was the concern. It just like came from nowhere. It's not like I had I'm wondering. It was like, I have to tell you this. I'm really frightened, and I think this is the case. It was like that. So, but he was concerned, and it's like I said, surprised. He didn't have a sense of it, at all.
So how long did you wrestle with, okay, so you had these feelings, and you're like, okay, this is reality. I really have these feelings for women. I'm married. How long did you accept it yourself before you decided to have that conversation with your then husband?
Maybe that's hard. I don't know. I'm gonna say not that long. Maybe like a year. It was grappling. I was going to like therapists. I was really stressed out, and I thought I would come out to a therapist and tell them what was going on. I couldn't say it out loud to anybody. I didn't want to say it out loud. So I was in law school at the time, and I just remember I was going to just like going through a big struggle. So maybe it's about a year or so, not longer than 2 years. It's like keeping something to myself private. I had senses of things before, but nothing to say, this is definitely the case. But by the time I knew for sure, I was like, oh my gosh.
I wanted to ask you that too, if you did, go to a therapist, which is something Caribbean people also don't find easy to do. Not that you needed the help of a therapist, but just to help you figure out.
You know what? I honestly believe like everybody needs a therapist. So it's like, I think I'm fortunate too, because I wrote about this when I write with Island Origins magazine, and one of the things I wrote about was in the mental health, that I was lucky that my mom wasn't like concerned about the stigmas of things like that. So when she felt like, oh, my kids need help in this way, like, so that was something that I knew was fine for me to get therapy. At the same time, I didn't feel I would tell everybody. So there's some stigma because I didn't want to tell everybody about it, but it wouldn't stop me from getting help.
Right. Okay. So you come to your own reality. You've spoken to your husband, and now you have to tell your kids.
Nope.
No? What happened?
I didn't tell my kids for many years. My kids did not know. Nope.
So tell us what happened then. You told David.
I told David, and it's interesting because I told him, and it just was just that. Like, we didn't do anything about it for many years. We had another baby. We moved from New York City to Florida. I worked here. I got involved in local politics. David became a professional photographer. We coached soccer. So we had his whole life. So it kind of was just a part of me. I think there's a lot of people like that. Like, they're living their lives and everything's felt kind of fine, but you're gay. So, but yeah, so it was many, many years. So in the latter part of our marriage is when I feel like, okay, I'm not like I'm unhappy, but I really feel like I need to be with women. So that became where now I'm going to shift in terms of I need to actually be with women. And it was hard because it wasn't like I was in a marriage where I was upset about the marriage, but it's like I'm drawn. Oh, so I didn't tell my sons until, I mean, they're both probably like young, maybe teenagers. When I told them at separate times. I didn't want to tell them together. So I remember I told one, I think, New Year's Eve and one New Year's Day. Said, let me explain to them who I am and so on. So, and I remember feeling out like, where are they? I didn't know how they felt about LGBTQ people and so on. So they found out much later.
Okay, so this is shocking. So you tell David, you guys stayed together, you're still sexually active, still had another kid, and just to the rest of the world, you were just a normal married couple, right? Did you tell your parents during this time?
Yes, yes. Okay. So that's interesting too, because so I tell David a couple years later, I tell my brother, he's the second person, like me and David end up having like kind of a series of coming out to people that are important in our lives, like very close to us that we trust. So I told my brother and he was like, yes, he was like happy. I was like, happy? He's always been very supportive of the LGBTQ community and is supportive that I could be myself. So he was very supportive. Thank you, Rich. And then my sister lives in California and we had flown out there for a trip with the kids to go to like Legoland and the zoo and all this great stuff. And I decided I have to tell her and her husband. And I remember, you know, I'm like, I have to tell you something very serious. And I had this whole like preamble, kind of like a pre-ramble. And I said, you know, like maybe something like, I'm a lesbian. And they're like, oh my God, we thought you were gonna tell us something bad. They were like so relieved. They're like, your whole buildup, we thought you were gonna tell us you had an illness or something's wrong. So they're like, thank God, okay, you're gay. Okay, that's fine. Then they're like, we live in California, that's fine here. So then I will come out to my friends. I mean, I have some friends who remind me of like, and I don't remember everybody, but I would, over the years, I mean, this is like 10, 15 years of like, if you're close to me and you're in my life, at some point I'm gonna tell you the fullness of who I am. Otherwise it felt like I couldn't really be friends with you if you didn't really know like really who I am. So little by little, I told my closest circle. So most people started to know who I was. And I came out professionally, which was actually the best feeling when, I mean, not the best, but like when everything could come together was like, I had people who knew I was gay and people who had no idea. And at some point I just was like, everybody's gonna know who I am, no more secrets, no more, you know, does that person know? And all of that, like, it's like a double life, it gets exhausting. And I got to the point was like, why am I even doing this? I was really doing that to protect, like being like fear of judgment from people, protect what I thought was like a reputation, which I don't need because it's like the best thing you could be is yourself, right? So, but yeah, so at some point I was like, and it was the best feeling to just be one whole person, no double life.
So was your ex-husband ever angry?
Angry.
I know he was shocked. Was he ever angry?
I don't think he was angry. I think he was, I mean, I'm going to tell you, by the way, to make this clear, like, because I come from homophobia, like me being gay was very upsetting. So ironically, in some ways, he was the one who was like, look, there's nothing wrong with being gay. If this is who you are, you got to accept yourself. Like before people knew. He was like, don't beat up yourself. Because sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm cursed. Like I have a beautiful family. Look at my family. Like, why is this going to be stolen? Why is it taken away from me? I want to have this. And he'd be like, look, stop. That's ridiculous. If you're gay, you're gay. You got to accept who you are. So I was like, so it took me some time. And I mean, I'm very grateful for that because, and people like my brother too helped a lot with that. Because I was literally beating up myself about this and like, oh my God, why me? And honestly, now that I've lived openly gay for many years now, it's like an amazing gift. I think it is an amazing blessing, actually.
Good. Oh, well, thank you for that. And I'm sure it's, like you said, it's great that you had the support. You had the siblings that were like, thank God it's not something like devastating, a critical illness. You had a husband that was shocked, obviously.
Well, surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, but with, you know, the love and respect you have for each other, obviously a support system then through the years, and it makes it a lot easier when you told the children as well. Now, what was their reaction?
They were pretty nonchalant about it. At the time I identified as bisexual. So They both were like, they were fine because I have close relationships with them, of course, you know, as a mom, but I remember my youngest son saying like, bisexual, does that mean gay? And I was like, well, it's kind of like gay because you love men and women, you pretty much human beings. You're attracted to human beings. And so he was like, okay, you know, I no longer identify as bisexual, even though I feel like perhaps we all are in some ways, just love it, you know, being attracted to humans, but I feel so drawn much more to women than men that identify as a lesbian. Okay. I don't see myself like romantically involved with men or anything like that.
Okay, so a lot of people have tuned in. We want to thank everyone that's tuned in listening. I'm just checking if anyone's, a lot of people saying, hey, G.
Hey, I want to see. Let me see if I can see. Okay, because I'm not here. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
David Sona starts so quick, enough people not on such an exact 8 o'clock. Listen, man, David, even though island people are known for being late, this is not a show that starts late. Eric and the Jazz are checking in from Fort Lickerdale via Boogie Down Bronx, sending support and blessing. And David says everyone needs a therapist. David, I think the therapists need therapists. If you ever meet some of these therapists,
everybody.
Therapists. So, so now you've told the children. Did you lose friends or family members? You know,
I saw some shifts. I mean, most of the people in my circle were extremely supportive, but we did have a particular family that had some challenges, and I could feel it. And I remember speaking. They're Jamaican like ourselves, but more leaning towards being more conservative. So I had to openly say, okay, hold on, stop. What's going on? Because I could feel like we were always together. And no, I had a girlfriend. I'm like, no, they have a girlfriend. I know this is hard. So we spoke about it, and I had to address it. They couldn't handle it. Like, they just saw it happening. So I said, let's talk about it. So that family, and it was challenging for them. None of my close relatives, thankfully, I want to say my mom, who's always been supportive of the LGBTQ community, always, had a hard time for this reason. Her daughter is married to a man and has children. So she was like, huh, what? Wait, like, that was hard for her to like grapple, but nobody in my family was like, that close family, right, had an issue with it. I had some cousins from my dad's side who are like Christians who came to me and said, hey, some people said in the church, this is wrong. We are supporting you. We disagree with that. So I feel very fortunate. I did hear one of my cousins said, an aunt of mine who I'm not very close to, she said, oh, she's having a heart attack. And I said, well, I wish her the best. I hope she'll be fine. But generally, I feel very fortunate. And one of my favorite uncles, my mom's brother, he actually, and it meant a lot to me, he actually made a firm statement to say, look, times have changed. I want you to know I support you. I love you and I support you with who you are. And he was probably in his 70s at the time. He we were Jamaican New Yorkers for a long time, but he had built his house in Jamaica, like built his retirement home and everything. And so he was living in Jamaica at the time. He said, I want to tell you, I support you and who you are, and I'm proud of you. And it's like my mom's sister as well. My Aunt Elaine is always extremely supportive of me. And so I feel like extremely just blessed to have that kind of support.
Okay, so religion, you touched on that. Mm-hmm. Were you religious?
So, because I went to school in Jamaica, right? Elementary school, Mona Prep had devotion every morning. And I think on Mondays we went to the chapel, and then I go to Campion College, which is a Jesuit school, and we have devotion and religious education. So I grew up religious only because of school. My parents, who had been previously religious, were not religious anymore, but were fine with us getting, the religious education. So I just, like I said, I just had it through school.
And have you had any comments about, being gay and the religious side of it?
Well, it's funny, and I talk about this in my article too, like, even though I was not religious, that was my first arguments was it's against Christianity and it's wrong. But one thing I did point out in the same article is that there's other things in the Bible that are supposed to be wrong that nobody cares about, right? Nobody tries, like Jamaica is an island that's probably filled with people who have children outside of wedlock, right? I don't care, but that's also supposed to be wrong. But the island probably has more kids out of wedlock than in. You
Right.
know, people are not up in arms about it. You know, people are not supposed to fornicate, have sex outside of marriage. Come on, Jamaica, right? But then it's one thing. People are like, no, that's wrong. And like, it just didn't make sense. But that's all I had really. I didn't have a lot of, I just really learned from dancehall music and this kind of like the culture of Jamaica keep reinforcing like no one's gay and shouldn't be gay. But so I just was like repeating little bites of things that I heard was like because of religion, but I was never really like an actual religious person. It was more just repeating what I had heard.
And I know a lot of people will say, you know, because we know people because of the culture, and not just Jamaica, but around the world. But obviously Jamaica strong on it. It's like if you have those feelings, you should literally just bury them.
Yes.
Keep them to yourself, die with it, so to speak, and not act on it. So did you ever have those feelings not to just act on it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I had hope not to act on it. I had hopes, yeah. So there was years where I had hope that I could just live my life without being with women, you know. So I mean, it's just sad. I think it's part of like, you know, growing up in middle class Jamaica where there's a concern of what people think. And I know it's not just middle class Jamaica, but I think there's just a strong concern of, you know, judgment from people. So I had to really, and David helped me a lot with that because David doesn't care about anything. So that was very helpful for him to be like, why do you care? I'm like, they're gonna know I'm gay. And why is that important? Why do you care what they think? And so I had to get that like out of my psyche and my being. And that's how I could, in addition to being openly gay, the first time I decided to wear ties and vests and blazers and what's considered men wear was the same thing. I was going to events in dresses and ended up going in suits and bow ties and had to be like, I don't care what people think. I'm being myself. And that's what it comes down to.
So do you think Jamaica will change? I mean, you live in America. So as a Jamaican living in America, it's very, very different than the atmosphere, the culture, the acceptance right now in Jamaica. People are fleeing the country to escape so that they can just be themselves. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, Jamaica it's very difficult for people to be openly gay. I know for people in the middle class and wealthier neighborhoods and communities, they're able to live more freely because they have, for example, a large home and they can have a party and nobody knows if you live in a poor neighborhood where your neighbors are like right there, or, you know, people are so much aware of who you're with because you're in smaller, tighter spaces. I know it's harder for people who are poorer and in some of the rural communities. I think what's going to have to happen is similar to what happened here, that they need people in the public to be openly gay. So we have people who, like Diana King came out, and that was very helpful. We need other people to join her. And especially, I think, people who are in the public eye. Like, I've made myself very public, but I'm not like I'm a celebrity. So we need people who are like, Jamaica loves the athletes. We need our gay athletes to come out. Jamaica loves the singers. We need our gay singers to come on out and be public with their lives. And we love the community, the culture loves these people so much. I feel like they'll be embraced by globally, and that Jamaica's gonna be like, okay, we still love you. Because you know Jamaica loves when the whole world loves you. Like when foreign loves people from Jamaica, then it's like this whole frenzy. So like, I feel like we have someone right now in dancehall music who, that person came out, she's already so popular globally. I think it would be helpful and things like that. And for people to be able to live openly in Jamaica just makes a big difference with acceptance, you know? And for people, you know, I have an uncle in Jamaica who's very religious. He's a deacon at one of the churches, and we're talking about it. And he just didn't have an understanding of so many things. And having the conversation, he was like, you could tell he was like, why are we doing all of this? Like, these people need to also be accepted into our churches and into our communities, you know? So I think we have to just really like relax and let people live their lives and understand that, because people are gay, right? People are gay everywhere, but they're forced to hide who they are, you know? But it's going to take time. It took time here in America. I mean, it's recent years. It's 50 years, 51 years since there's been major changes in America. It's still very recent. So it's going to take time, but it does start with being able to be visible and live your life.
Yeah, I believe these conversations help.
Yes.
It certainly needs conversation. I can't, even though, like you mentioned, in America, it's just recent years where people are probably seeing a shift, so to speak, as the generations change and more visibility, which you mentioned. But Jamaica is strong rooted in our culture. I don't know, you mentioned poverty where, but I think a lot of the high society people that have feelings for same sex may not come out because the stigma that's there. Imagine doctors coming out. There are people that will say, I won't go to you anymore because they'll lose business if someone knows. They'll be bashed. There's been an attorney that fled the country because it came out that he was gay. Yeah. And reality is, there are laws in place for Jamaica, which have been passed down through the British colony. The buggery law, which is very specific for man on man. So I think, woman on women, lesbians is, some people have said, oh, they're kind of all right there, but for man on man, it's probably even more of, the roots against gays.
Yeah, I actually want to acknowledge my friend and colleague, Maurice Tomlinson, because he's the one behind pretty much any lawsuit you see supporting equality for LGBTQ people in Jamaica. He's behind it. So I'm just going to say, like, this is not so different from what America was not too long ago. I mean, marriage equality is just a few years ago, right? The things you're talking about, I know people, there's a couple there in their 70s, a lesbian couple, and they said they had to hide, right? One was a chiropractor, and the other was I think maybe like helping with administration, and they had to hide, and that's America. So, I mean, I know it feels like, wow, will Jamaica get there? And I do have those feelings, but these things do take time, and I feel but people have to also be very brave. And people have to also, we need the allies, people like my brother, people like David, people who are not gay, who are like supportive of the community are extremely powerful people. Because when you get somebody saying, hold on, no, we don't need to do that. Come on, stop. And they're like, hold on, you're that? No, I'm not, that's fine. But I'm just saying, these folks are equal to us. We need to let them live their lives. So allyship in places like Jamaica are just like priceless.
Yeah. I was told I was brave for doing this interview.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having the courage. So do you feel like Caribbean people here in America are still carrying the homophobia that they learned in Jamaica?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, and I think we know it. I think more the conversations need to happen. Right. People need to see real people like yourself that are, just open and saying, hey, this is just, and people say that you're born this way, right? What struck me with your life's journey was the fact that, you're not just saying, I was born this way. You did everything that people say, I did it right? I fell in love, I got married, I had children, and then I realized this is not who I am, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, in your situation, you had a husband that was shocked, but supportive and you stayed together. Many couples don't go through that. So when you think of a wife walking into, someone told me this, a friend of hers walked in and her husband's having, sex with another man. That's a hard swallow.
Of course.
And of course that ends in divorce in her situation. But yeah, I know Jamaicans because you're talking about age difference, right? You're talking about 40s, 50s, 60s, that culture. So it's the same culture that we grew up with, that you grew up with, right? Now our kids is a different generation in America.
Right.
The school system is different. There's more. I remember when I took my daughter she was leaving elementary school to high school, they had a whole table display at the table. And I thought it was too early being a mom for my kids to have any conversation about sex. But the point is, you're not going to find that in a Jamaican school. I don't think you are. I don't live in Jamaica. But I wouldn't think it would happen in Jamaica.
Were you saying it was LGBTQ issues or sex? Or was LGBTQ?
Both.
Okay, both included.
It was promoting both. And for me, my elementary school kid didn't need to know about sex, period, coming to an open house for school.
But this is my thing though, talking about LGBTQ people doesn't mean you're talking about sex. So I was a part of a program called Welcoming Schools, just put on by the Human Rights Campaign. And we went into schools and talked to teachers about how they could share information with students from this perspective. Some students have two moms, some students have two dads. Not about sex, right? So just about like their different types of families, and to make sure that children felt welcome, regardless if their families were two women or two men or grandma, right? Or uncle or foster care, just like making sure everybody felt welcome at school.
So, and this one was specific sex, but I get your point. Now, have they tried that at all schools, and are all schools welcoming, or do they get some pushback on that?
I know they get some pushback. There are schools, like the school I happened to be assigned to was excited to have us, right? Now there's some teachers, and you're training about 50 teachers, and some teachers are like, okay. And there are many teachers who are like, we giving them enough space to talk about like what their thoughts are. And there's some people who are like, there's some Jamaican teachers there who said like, hey, before I even saw you, I thought differently, right? It's been helpful to hear your story, helpful to talk to you, you know, because like we're saying, even though we're in America, there's lots of people who still carry a lot of the homophobia. But I do like your point that it's gonna actually change here in America, probably first through the children, because these kids are growing up in where they're seeing their friend. They might go to a birthday party and you meet mommy and mommy or daddy and daddy. They're gonna have friends who are gonna come out as gay as 10 and 12 and 14-year-olds. So they're having a very different experience. And so I think they're like just much more integrated in American society and are gonna experience being around just diverse people overall much more.
Okay, so I agree, but based on your journey, right, what would you tell someone, especially someone young, that is coming through that acceptance stage? Because you have a parent that, no matter where that parent is from, you know, and I had this conversation recently, parents, you know, tend to hold their breath to say, is my kid gonna date a girl? Is my kid gonna date a boy, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's reality for a lot of parents, right? They wanna see where their kids, you know, because they know society's gonna judge, etc. So what would you tell a child that has a strong parent that probably wasn't is as open and as accepting as and loving as your parent was?
Well, I'm going to say to find some safe person or organization to help them with coming out. Like here in South Florida, we have an organization called SunServe that they have, people can get support. They have youth groups, counseling, and so on. So I feel like wherever people are, you know, if they have, not everybody has access to organizations, but if you have access to an organization that can help you, or a faith-safe friend or family member, sometimes it's a teacher. But to find someone safe, because you're right, there's gonna be parents, Jamaican, Caribbean, American, there's still many American people who are against it. So it's not, you know, just us that have family members, parents who are not gonna support them. So if you can find someone safe to come out to, is like, I would say, you know, the best thing. And here in America, there's a lot of more, for Jamaica, I know it's much smaller, they have Equality Jamaica, but I know it's harder, you know, but I say if you can get connected to an LGBTQ organization, that would be ideal.
Go ahead.
As I say, some schools actually have organizations centered around supporting LGBTQ students. And so they know there's a safe place for them to, go to and talk to people, talk to teachers and so on, fellow students.
And please, in the future, if you come up with any other support system, please share them with us.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to say this too, like a lot of people this is the thing, if you see somebody who's gay and you feel like I need to reach out to that person, you don't even have to know the person well, right? To say, and I've had that, people who I don't know, who just reach out to be like, I just need to talk to you. I'm also gay, I'm also lesbian, I'm also gender nonconforming. So it's just similar like, when I was a young lawyer and I was like, wow, I want that person to be my mentor. Most people are not going to say no. If you're like, hey, can we meet? Can we do this? Can we talk? Can I get some advice? So similarly in the LGBTQ community that, most people will be happy to support, right? Support someone who needs help. You don't have to know the person, right? You can get support from any of us in the community.
So tell us, you live in America, you've come out, so to speak, and you return home with your girlfriend. What was that like mentally for you?
That was stressful because I'm going to tell you, even in the airport in Fort Lauderdale, as you get to that section where, we're going to Jamaica, I could start to feel the staring. Our people love to stare. It's like, and I'm like this, hello, hi, how are you doing? But you feel the difference. And then that's the only place that I've gone where I had to say, okay, so when we get there, we can't hold hands. And I really didn't like that. That's the only, and it's sad that that's my home country, that I have to be like, to be on the safe side, let's not let people know who we are. Interesting, when I'm there in Jamaica, men think I'm a man. So it makes me a little safer. Women all know I'm a woman. So it's always interesting. But it is a place that's not a good feeling. We went for Montego Bay Pride 2 years in a row, a couple years ago. So once we get to the Pride setting, it feels like just like Disney World because it's everybody and you're safe to be yourself and people are dancing and socializing and it's safe. But once we left that compound, then we know like we have to be careful. So that's not a good feeling. But my same uncle, I love that he was saying to her, is like, look, you're family now, you're family. Like he's like, I want to make sure you know that you're welcome. And that's like, that's just golden to have anybody in your family, especially people who are like 70 years old, to say, I want to make it clear that I support you.
Yeah, I can imagine how strange that would be going home because the culture. And
yes.
Then was your girlfriend from the US or?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, let me see. Yeah, definitely like American, born and raised, but ancestry from Jamaica, Cuba, and Panama. So, but she's been in America for her life. Yeah. So we also went somewhere in uptown Jamaica where I felt like we'd be safe. I know no one was going to hurt us. So I said, okay, we're feeling the vibe. We're going to just chill like a regular couple like we do in America. I know we're safe here. But everybody was like, we're going to stare at you the entire night. So there was no threat of violence because we're uptown. But I think everybody's like, are they really what we think they are? And do they see that we see them? So it was just an interesting thing. So I didn't feel like certain places I'm like, I feel we wouldn't be safe. But here it was more like everybody's going to spend the whole night just like looking at us. So I was like, at some point you're like, I don't really want to do that, So, but definitely, it's a very interesting experience. I really want Jamaica, and that's why another reason why I wrote that piece was just to start the conversation about opening our minds to same-sex marriage, opening our minds to accepting LGBTQ people, and so people like myself, I want to go to Jamaica and feel 100% safe and confident and not worry about someone wanting to hurt me because I'm a lesbian, I want to be able to have that. And Maurice Tomlinson, who's like, he's married to a man in Canada. He would actually like to go home. His parents are elderly in Montego Bay. He'd like to go home with his husband, but his marriage wouldn't be recognized. So we definitely, we need to get to another level where we're recognizing people's marriages. We're allowing people to get married to each other. These are consenting adults who love each other. And it's a human right they should have, So come on, Jamaica.
Come on, Jamaica. So let me read some comments as we go along. David says, we were always as honest with each other as we could. G. Wright did good to be honest with me throughout. Oh, thank you, David, for that.
Yes, which is amazing. I love that. I mean, to be able to say to the person that you're married to, like anything I felt and thought or wanted to do that I never had to cheat or thought of cheating or anything like that, you know, and told him my thoughts and what and the truth of who I am, you know.
But that speaks volumes for both of you. I don't think many people can say that about their partner.
Yeah,
They probably would be enemies at some level, even if later on they made up or not.
Right.
Just, wow, you guys.
No, I have a couple friends who were like me, married to men, and the men actually are like viciously upset with them. So I'm definitely, and I know people like me and David too, where it's fine and great, but I know that it could have gone a different way. So I say like, hey, I got lucky. I married the right guy, and he really supported me, you know, being myself and co-parenting with me continuously, like just really well as well. So I got lucky for sure.
Oh, David, thank you. Because a lot of people would probably feel deceived, like you've known all along and you just didn't, he just accepted it.
Well, there's no deception because I didn't do anything like, you know, it's like as soon as I felt like I could talk about it, I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want that, you know, so there was no deception. So that eliminates that like betrayal and mistrust or anything. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah. And Michelle Hussein from Atlanta, thanks for joining us, Miss. She says, knowledge is power, and to touch on the Bible, as Dee pointed out, how Christians choose certain parts of the Bible to uphold. It says in the Bible, don't eat pork because it's unclean. But
right.
How much people eat pork? Leave my jerk pork alone.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, we have to really look at that, the hypocrisy of that, you know? Yeah, and you mentioned about people in Jamaica not coming out and people leaving if they, you know, it's like people know that people are gay and they're living their lives, you know, and some people, I'm going to tell you, some of the biggest homophobic people are gay.
Yes, I had that conversation too.
Hello.
The loudest scream.
Loudest, yes. So we need to let go of that, you know, and it's unfortunate. So that means for our community, some of the people who are the most against it, because I'm that person, I was against it. I was against it.
You say you're the most gay person, most homophobic person.
Yeah, I went from homophobia to homo sensation, like really this, but it's like, yeah, the people who are spending all their energy. Sometimes I listen to some of the dancehall artists and I'm like, why are you spending so much time thinking about what two men are doing? Why are you consumed with that? What's really going on? You know, so we need to let go of that.
So Kishai, thanks for tuning in. Kishai, he says, Caribbean American kids are more accepting of talking about sex and the LGBTQ population, but many of them reinforce a lot of discrimination and stigma.
Yeah, that's true. I wanted to point out too, although, you know, we talk about Jamaica and the Caribbean a lot, that I have had experiences here in America where we were in Orlando and I didn't think about it. This is a place called, I think, Bob Marley Cafe or Bob Marley something by Universal. So you're on a tourist destination. I don't think Bob Marley anything really has to do anything with Caribbean people. It felt like a tourist spot. We went in there, we're hugging up, we're enjoying the night. People were not happy with us. I was very surprised. And that's right here in America, you know? So also somewhere here, not far from where I live in Fort Lauderdale, we had, me and my pal went out and we were hanging out, a group of us, and we had a really bad experience. So, you know, we talk about Jamaica and the Caribbean, but there's still a lot of work to be done here and so many places in the world, you know?
Was this recent, your experiences here with?
Experiences here, yeah. One was probably about a year ago and was extremely upsetting. But yeah, I have a full homophobic, like negative energy. I've had a couple occasions where the DJ decides to play Boom Bye Bye and I approach them and tell them not to play the song. So that has been something that has led to some issues for me, being, you know, public and you're hearing the song that is saying, you know, let's kill gay people. So I generally when I'm out, I'm like, you can't play that song. So, but this turned into something more, you know, so yeah, I've had experiences here that have been not pleasant, you know, so we still have work, like I said, work here, work in Jamaica, and just really the world, you know.
And you just triggered something when you were saying that, and Kishai being on as well. Because when I spoke with Kishai before, and we're talking about like our music and, you know, just these songs, you know, and a lot of the artists have come out and apologized. They no longer, you know, sing these or have these lyrics, you know, in their new songs. But when I go out and I hear these songs being played, after talking to Kishai and opening my eyes more and being more aware, I certainly don't dance to these songs anymore.
Good, thank you.
So,
We should be, yeah.
Yeah, it goes to show, you know, that people are listening. The more we have the conversations, the
Good.
more we understand and love each other more, because we grew up with such stigma, right?
Yeah, I want to point out when I say that I object to the song being played, I'm not going to like a hardcore dance setting where there's like, you know, sets and sound and ba 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 ba, and I'm like, no, boom, bye bye. I'm talking about going to like, you know, like a setting that's not just for Jamaican people. It's a mainstream setting. One was at an art gallery in Miami, right? One was at like a jazz lounge, places like that where I'm like, hold on, no, this should not occur here. But I'm not going into like the center of a hardcore dance and saying, hold on, you know, you can't play that. No. I'm not.
You're picking your battles.
Well, yeah, I just don't go to those places. I don't go to hardcore dance hall events because I am not welcome there. I don't feel safe. So whether I'm in Jamaica or America, I'm not going to like a hardcore, you know, sound clash where people are going to be playing tunes that are directly assaulting me. I just don't go to those places anymore. You know, I grew up going to them. I grew up going to those places, but I don't go anymore.
So Joan Sigri says, I teach high school and it's quite open now. I've had students who came out and changed their name, and I call them by their new names. Thanks for that, Joan. That's good to know as well.
That's excellent. Thanks, Joan.
Okay, a lot of people saying hello.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm exhausted, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
And Nadia said, thanks for tuning in. And she says, great conversation. Thanks you for sharing the Caribbean Edge Rocks. Thank you. So just checking if anyone has any questions, but a lot of people are thankful that you're having this conversation with us. So what else do you want people to know about you as we come up on almost an hour of conversation?
Oh my gosh. There is a whole lot. So let me think what's actually important. I really want people to read the op-ed, and I want people to share it, and I want people to really be vocal about supporting our community. I think it's really important. I think it's really important. I talked about it earlier for allies to say, and you don't have to label yourself as an ally, but once you support us, you are an ally. To really start having those conversations with people around you. A couple years ago, a Jamaican guy had asked me like, hey, what can I do to help? And I said, I know those conversations that happen, right? Sometimes in our circles where someone goes, yo, that man of this, right? Them man fit dead. When you hear these things, stand up and say, yo, Bridget, no, I'm gonna deal with those things, right? So be that person to really push people to start to open their minds, you know? I was actually at an event a couple of years ago, and I wasn't out yet, so several years ago, and some guy was going into a whole tirade about gay people, and I was like, we had some nice dinner party, and then one guy just said, you know what? I work with a whole heap of them, and they're all right, you know? And I don't know who my pato is, but this is like my invitation. He said, them all right, you know? This guy have a boyfriend, she have her girlfriend. I'm not worried about them people, them all right people, you know? So even that starts to help and open our minds to be like, yeah, why are you worrying about that? So I think allyship is really very important. I write a lot. I write with the Island Origins magazine. I'm going to be doing an article, nothing to do with this, but I'm doing an article looking at how Black Caribbean people intersect with Black people here in America and what our experiences with race. So I would say, I would ask people to follow Island Origins magazine and read the articles. We're writing really, we're trying to have conversations in the magazine that not everybody's talking about in the Caribbean community. So I've written about mental health. I've written about me being gay. And I just did an article about what people are doing in COVID. I think quarantine cuisine. and this next one coming up. So I'd say, you know, I really would love people to take the time to read the articles that I'm writing and share the articles as well. I'm trying to think if anything else. No, I don't know if anybody has any questions. We have a few minutes.
Well, where are you and David now in your relationship?
Oh, I think, well, I call him my sexy exie, and he calls me his sexy exie. So we're really close friends. So I would say like he's like best friend, but since he's my former husband, we go sexy exie, but we're really great friends. He's supportive in my life. I'm supportive of his life. And even though our sons are all grown up, I was like, wow, there's still more work. There's still more work. So we partner in helping our sons in their lives still, you know. So he's been doing a lot of barbecuing in COVID, so that's been great, you know. So yeah. Anything else I should add?
Well, I want to read something you wrote, and I think I got this off of Island Origin as well. And you wrote, I remember thinking that being gay was like a curse, but it has been one of my greatest blessings. I'm a part of a proud, resilient, beautiful global community and family. I have a beautiful, supportive girlfriend. My children are so well adjusted and happy for me. And I'm liberated from the judgment of society and able to live my life authentically. Mm-hmm. That's so well said. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, thank you for reading that. But that's exactly my experience. And I mean, the LGBTQ community, it's beautiful. I mean, people are so supportive. I didn't know the community. You know, that's why I say it feels like a blessing, because you're afraid of something and then you become a part of it. And it's just like, if you ever see a Pride event, it's just like, it could be overwhelmingly emotional, because people are just loving people, because we know we've all gone through so much to be ourselves, and there's really nothing better. Like, some people have even posted like, hey, I'm not gay, but you've still inspired me to be myself. There's so much in society that tries to block people from being who they are. So when you're yourself, it's really the most beautiful thing, you know, most beautiful thing.
Yeah, well, thank you. And that's so true. You don't have to be gay to just relate and have communication, open, honest communication. So I certainly appreciate you opening up your life, your personal mm-hmm. life with us, in order to impact change in our world, and for people that are struggling, whatever you're struggling with in life. It's okay to have conversation and start the healing process yourself, or the acceptance process.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are on. I thank everybody for being on and for sharing. I'm hoping people are sharing the conversation. I have some really close friends. I mean, in addition to David, I see that Anne-Marie is there. I see Nikki Lopez is there. I see a lot of people are there supporting me, and everybody who's there, I'm really happy that you're there. Amy Cesara in California shared it. I really appreciate that. My friend Sarah, we were best friends in Jamaica. It's funny. She remembers, the people who knew me when I was so homophobic. This is bad, but she had like a satellite dish, and we were watching what we call blue movies. And when the woman came on, I was repulsed. Isn't that something? She's like, hold on, wait. I was upset about that. I was like, teenager. So yeah, I say some of the most homophobic people, you know, but yeah, Shani's on. I'm just seeing a lot of people on. Nick is on. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the support.
Thank you. Remember to share this episode of The Caribbean Edge. We thank you for joining us for this wonderful, powerful episode as G opens up with us and shares her journey. And thank you, David, for being a great friend and supporter. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. And we wish you continued success in all the projects you're working on now and in the future.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you, I really, especially when you said it was brave, people say you're brave. We need your bravery, and we appreciate your bravery. And I know that every time we share who we are like this, we inspire people to be themselves, and we inspire people to support people who are themselves. So this is very valuable that you're doing. This is very important. So I appreciate it for myself, and I appreciate it for the Caribbean LGBTQ community and the community, the global community everywhere. Because this is the thing with Facebook. People in Israel and Zimbabwe and Trinidad and Montego Bay can all see this. And it's extremely powerful that you have me here sharing my story. So I'm really very grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Good luck.
Okay, thank you. Take
One
care.
love.
One
Bye.
love. Okay, bye-bye.